Hello, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. Annie, can you start recording? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. Thank you very much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And welcome everyone aboard to this workshop, which is going to be 100% hands-on. So I hope all of you are ready to start with writing your systematic literature review. Before we start with the hands-on part, I would like to introduce what is systematic literature review and what is review papers in general, so that you would know what are we going to do this evening. First of all, there is different types of review papers. One of them is systematic literature review, systematic review, bibliometric analysis, meta-analysis, scope review, and so on. So what is the meaning behind writing a review paper is that we want to summarize as many papers as we could in one paper. So that's why I advise all my PhD students to start their proposal with a systematic literature review. Why? Because if you are confused about the theories that you are going to use, how are you going to build the framework for your study? What are you going to use with a qualitative, quantitative approach? What is the statistical analysis, the instrumentation for your research? All of these questions could be answered by conducting a systematic literature review. And that's why I'm telling all my PhD students, number one thing to do is systematic literature review. So it will guide you all through the way, okay? Now, why do we need systematic literature review? Because it fills the gaps in a certain area. Let's say you are a PhD student, you don't know how to start, where to start, so many titles attracting you, and you go to your supervisor between now and then, asking the supervisor, I want to change my title to this. What do you think of this? You know, all these questions will be answered by conducting a systematic literature review. Okay. Now, when you conduct a systematic literature review, it will serve as a guideline for you what to do and when. Okay. Why? Because we are building our research based on our previous researchers. This is, as a human, what we do. So research is not something random, it's something very systematic, and we build our knowledge based on the previous researchers. Okay, that's why we have a whole chapter in our thesis called chapter 2, literature review. Now, how to start with the any systematic literature review? Systematic literature review is a relationship. Okay, it's very important for you to understand that at this stage, right? Why I'm telling this? Because when we start searching for the keywords, getting the results, just as we are going to do now, some of the students will get so many results, thousands of documents, and some of them will get few results. And the main reason for that is, as a researcher, you need to be exposed about what are you going to search, what are you going to talk about, what is this paper is going to be about, the relationship in this systematic literature review. So we need to study a relationship between these two keywords. And then number two is the research questions. Uh, is research questions in any systematic literature review like standard? Can I take research questions from other researchers, from other systematic literature review? Of course, yes, you can, but it depends on what you are going to contribute in this paper. So it's about the contribution that this paper is going to provide for the body of knowledge. Let's say I'm a PhD student and I don't know what theory fits my research. So one of the research questions, maybe number one research question will be, what is the main utilized research, what is the main utilized theory in this research area? Let's say I'm conducting a systematic literature review in online learning, in e-learning, in academic achievement, platforms, but I want to understand what theory fits this area of research. So I will ask a question. One of the research questions will be, what are the theories used? Okay. Let's say I know the theory, so there's no need to ask a question about the theory, but I don't know what other tools or what are the platforms. Is it WebEx? Is it Zoom? Is it MOOC? You know, is it the big blue button? All these questions will be answered by systematic literature review. Okay, so we are going to conduct a research questions together this evening. So what are the components of any systematic literature review? Just like any research paper, okay? We start with the title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, and so on. So one of the very unique part of any review paper is the methodology part. Because the methodology, as I mentioned, it's not a review paper. It's a systematic literature review, which means that I'm following a step-by-step guideline. Okay, and this is where methodology comes. So it's all about the methodology. Methodology will tell me what to do, when to do it, what is the correct way to do it, and so on. So methodology is everything in systematic literature review. It's not something random that I can simply write. No, it is very systematic. And one of the most common methodology in this area is called Prisma framework. So Prisma framework is one of the methodology that any review paper will follow. And this Prisma framework consisted of a guideline, step-by-step, that flow that you need to follow as a researcher to conduct and to complete the systematic literature review. Okay. Also, before we start with the methodology, we write the introduction part. Now, if I ask you a question, what is the best method to write an introduction for any research piece, not only systematic literature review, is by always following the reverse triangle approach. In writing the introduction, even for your thesis, for your research paper, for your review paper, you need to follow an approach in writing the introduction. Because why? Because the introduction is very important for the readers, for the reviewers, even for the editor. When you send your journal to the public, when you send your article to the journal, the first thing they read after the title, the abstract, and then they read the introduction, so that they know your style of writing. Are you capable of writing quality papers or not? So one of the approaches that we follow as researcher is the reverse triangle approach. And the reverse triangle approach is literally reversed. We start with the general, very wide, let's say, perspective about the issue, what's happening all around the world. And then we narrow down the problem in the middle. What is the main gap that is actually was behind writing this paper? And then finally, the main objective of this paper. So the main contribution of this paper. So in the introduction again, when we follow the reverse triangle approach, if we follow this, we will tell the reader that this review has a contribution to the body of knowledge, which is what do we know about the problem and what do we actually doing toward solving this problem. Okay, we will go back to the introduction. This is just the introduction for the theoretical part before we start with the hands-on. And then we start with the methodology, as I mentioned. The methodology, we follow the Prisma framework, which, as we can see here in the right, is a step-by-step process, okay? It will tell us what to do. And then when you are done with the step number 1, you go for the step number 2, step number 3, and so on. So it's a very systematic way of, conducting a review. So the stages, we will start with something. Prisma framework has 3 main stages. In some cases 3, some cases 3.5 or 4. Okay. Now the first stage is called identification. Why it's called identification? Because in this stage we need to identify what are we going to do. For example, if I am looking to know about, for example, to what extent students are using ChatGPT to answer their assessment. Okay, so in this case, I have 2 main keywords, which is the relationship. What is the relationship here? ChatGPT or AI use and writing assessments, right? So to study this, the first thing that I need to identify is the keywords. Number one keyword is ChatGPT. Second keyword is student assessment, okay? Or could be education or higher education, okay? Number two is to identify what database do I need to use in this search. For example, I'm going to use Scopus database, which means that I am going to extract all the documents that are talking about this topic from Scopus database. Any other database will not be included. Why? Because when we conduct research, especially review papers, we need to conduct the review in a very high quality publications. And these high quality publications will be published in a database, okay? So number one is the identification. And then second phase is called screening. Screening where we start to apply inclusion and exclusion criteria. We call it filtration. We apply filters. For example, in the initial search, when I search for ChatGPT and AI assessment or AI and assessment, I'm going to have around maybe 5,000 documents, okay? But I want to include this research to be only for the previous 5 years, for example, or 3 years, okay? And I want to make sure it's only written in English. And I want to make sure it's only articles, not conference papers, not book chapters, and so on. This is the process of screening. We are screening the inclusion and exclusion criteria, okay? We will go through that one by one. Now, from the first number that we get when we start our search to this last number, when we apply all the filters, the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we will apply a lot of inclusion and exclusion criteria. One of them is called quality assessment. Okay. Now, the quality assessment is the manual work beside the work that we use the database itself to help us with. Okay. Now, so the first thing that I want to show you before we start our hands-on is this is a review paper. Okay, this one here. Can you see my screen, guys? Great. So you are supposed to write something like this at the end of this class. Okay, so this is a review paper, as you can see. It's a Q1 published. This is the title. Okay, the abstract, introduction, and then research questions, and then methodology part, okay? In the methodology, as we can see, we have what we call Prisma framework. Prisma framework consisted of identification, screening, and lastly, inclusion and exclusion criteria. All right, now, let's go to Scopus website. You can start with me, right? You have access to Scopus. Okay, now when you go to Scopus, first thing, it's not a free website, so you can see my screen, guys. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. Now this is what we are going to deal with. The Scopus search, okay, option. When you click search, you will have this window starting with start exploring. We have different categories here, starting with document, authors, research discovery organization. And this is something new called Scopus AI. Okay. We tend to use document. Okay. So we select documents. Under documents, we have search within and we have search keywords. Search within has a lot of choices. Okay. I will go with article title, abstract, keywords, which means if I type something here, okay, if I type online learning, for example, if this online learning exists in keywords or abstract or article title, the results will be included. Let's select search and try this out, okay? Now I will have a lot of documents. This is like 240,000 documents. Why? Because we only choose one keyword, which is online learning. And we cannot do a review about online learning itself. We need a relationship, if you remember, okay? So it's always a relationship. The review paper, you are the one that is going to tell whether this one is appropriate or not, because you are an expert in your field, okay? So let's go with something like online learning and, for example, academic achievements. Okay, now I know that there is a relationship in online learning and academic achievement. Doesn't matter whether it's a positive relationship or a negative relationship, but there is a relationship. So I know I will find documents about this topic, but it will be way less than online learning alone. Okay, you can see here now online learning, and I added academic achievement. These are the two main keywords that I use. You see the number 2,564. Okay, so instead of 265, only 2,000, which is appropriate number for our research. Okay, this is number one. To be familiar with the keywords, because any change in the keywords will change the entire process. In review papers, our data is these documents. So any change we apply, it will change everything. The review will be different if I add just one keyword more, okay? Okay, now starting with, I need to start by activating the advanced query. Now this advanced query will record any step that I do in this page. So anything that I apply, it will be recorded here. And this is very important because this is the methodology for any review paper. We will write the methodology section from here. Okay, so this query is highly important. Okay, now before I do anything, I will go open a Microsoft Word file. Okay, first I will write the keywords, online learning, and academic achievements. Okay, this information is very important. Second is I need to take this number. See this one? 2,564. This one I call initial search. Right? Now, after I have the initial search, I will start with applying the inclusion and exclusion criteria and refine search. You see, refine. Why do I need to refine? Because I need to get papers that are 100% related to this topic. I want to exclude anything extra. Okay, so I'll start with the years. of course, as a PhD student, as a master student, as a scholar in general, you will need to pick the most updated recent publications. Okay. So I will go with the last 10 years, for example. Okay. From 2014, 2044. In 2025, I cannot include the current year because it's not over yet. Okay. So I will exclude 2025. When I'm done, I will click here. You see the results are different. They decreased a little bit. And if I go to the advanced query again, I will see one more record has been added, which is the publication year. Okay, 2013, more than 2013, which means 2014. 2013 is not included, and less than 2025. So means that 2025 is not included in the query. Okay, that's one filter. Second, we will go with the subject area. Of course, if you are from educational background, if you are from social science background, you will select the articles only in social science, maybe arts and humanities. That's it. Okay? So we need to be very specific. For example, studies in business management, you are not interested in. Studied in environmental science, unless you want studies in environmental science, then you can go for environmental science. If you are from computer science, you can select computer science, all right? And then when you select any subject area that is interest you, you go to limit 2. Okay, so this is number 2. If you go back again, you will see this more updated. So it's limited to subject area, social science, and arts and humanities. You need to understand these shortcuts, how to elaborate later on in the methodology, because you need to write the methodology from this part, okay? Very important. All right, after the subject area, we have document type. And we always go with article only. Why? Because later on, we need to download these articles, okay? So I'll select article, I'll select limit 2. And because I need to download them, I need to access the open access articles, avoid any books, chapters, any conferences, proceeding, and so on. Okay? And then we have English language, limit 2 as well. And one thing that we need to do is open access. You can see open access here. I will go with all open access. And why I choose open access again? Because I want to make sure when I download these articles, I will be able to download as many as I can. Okay, good. So the final number will be 511 documents out of 2,564. So almost 2,100 eliminated. Okay, now there's one more criteria here. It's called keyword. You see this one is called keyword. This one is very unique from Scopus because it will even give you more specialties to the articles that you want to select. It will be more like very hand-picked articles. So you will go through these keywords and select which one is included and which one will be not interested in your research. For example, in academic achievement, this is number 1 keyword, online learning, human, not necessarily, okay? Academic performance, maybe I can include e-learning, learning in general, I'm not interested. Humans, higher education, students, education, teaching, female. You see, a lot of keywords that have nothing to do with my topic. So I need to be very specific in selecting these keywords, all right? flipped classroom, all right, academic achievements. You see, academic achievements here with an S, here without an S. So because some authors use an S and some authors just academic achievement. All right. Engagement, not really. Okay. Satisfaction also, maybe distance, okay, related to online education, distance education. Okay, so I know I need to go one by one and select the most relevant keywords to my topic. And when I'm done, I'll just go with, okay, achievements. I will limit to. And now, if you can see, we only have 300 documents out of the 2,600. Are you guys following? Any questions so far? If yes. You can include, but you will have difficulties when you start downloading these PDF files. Okay, why we exclude conference? Because it will give us kind of gaps between the numbers. I will have big number here, but when I download, I will get a very low numbers. So that's why I exclude conference from the beginning. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Yes, there is a choice also here in review, but I don't include review papers. Why? Because reviewing review papers is something different. It's not writing a review anymore. Okay? It's called umbrella something, a meta umbrella meta analysis, something like this. So it's not a review paper anymore. So we need to be very specific with the articles. If you want to review papers, this is different. Then all the articles you need to include in your review must be review papers only. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Now what I do is I take the next number here. I call it what final number. But is it going to be the final number included in the SLR? Not yet. This is the final number from the review itself. Okay, so we'll have final one, final two, and final three. Okay, and then I need to copy this query, which is very important for us to write the methodology later on. So this is the query that we get, okay, from the Scopus search. Now, what is the next step? Next step is to be clear with what are the research questions that I'm going to look for answers in this review. Okay, so for example, I would like to start my review with the basics, let's say, information that I can extract from Scopus. For example, what are the top or the what is the distribution by years in the field of online learning and academic achievement research area, okay, for the last decade, for example. That would be my first research questions. All right. Now, how to answer this? Very easy. You go to, before we extract, we download the PDF. We use analyze results from Scopus platform itself. This is very nice and very important. Okay, so what we need to do is we will go with analyze results. You can see here, Scopus database will provide you with a very nice figures and information that you can use in your paper. Okay, just like this one. If you go start with the results, you will see a lot of information about the distribution, the geographical distribution, the country basis, and so on. So how to do that, how to extract this kind of data is by export, export data through CSV file, which is an Excel sheet. Okay, and then select these top countries. And then you can analyze through Excel itself. Okay, you can see the chart, or you can simply copy and paste to Microsoft Word by going to insert, and then, for example, charts, line, and then select any line. Once you click, this Excel sheet will open automatically. So what you need to do, just copy this information from Scopus and then paste here. Okay, once you are done, then close the Excel sheet. This is from Scopus. Why we don't screenshot? Because first of all, the quality of the image will be different. Second, we need to know this information when we start writing about the figures, how many publication in 2020-24. So this is the number 55. In 2023, we have 69 and so on. If we have a screenshot, it's not going to give any information. Okay, so maybe we can call this one figure 2 distribution by years. Okay, now if we are to ask about what are the top countries in the field of online learning for the last decade as well, we can extract. So this is going to be a research question number 2. We can extract this information from Scopus by going to countries, okay, and then doing the same, export, and then open this file, and then select the top 10 countries, for example, okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll go to Microsoft Word, insert, chart. You can go with a map if you would like. You can go with a pie. It's up to you. So you go here and then copy, close this, and then paste. All right, these are the top 10 countries. If you would like them to show as a map, you can do that as well by by changing the type of the chart. Okay, and then playing with the settings so that the countries will be shown, the name of the countries and so on. Okay, you can select the colors, whatever information you would like to do. Okay, any questions so far? Good. Now, this information, you can extract any information you would like. If you would like to ask more questions, maybe, for example, the top 10 authors in the field, the distribution based on subject area, the top universities in the field, and so on. So you just extract and then write the information again. Now let's go back to our search here to start with the SLR. These questions will be like an introduction, okay? In some cases, maybe you would like to mix between bibliometric and systematic literature review in one paper. You can do that, okay? Now, for the systematic literature review, where the question will be more concentrated on the content, not only the countries, the top authors, the journals, the affiliation, and so on. Now, these questions come from you as a researcher. What I am looking to achieve from this paper. So what are the main theories or educational theories, for example? Theories related to the field of online learning and academic achievement for the last decade. Now, I cannot answer this question from Scopus. I need to read, right? So let's write another question. What are the main platforms utilized in the field of blah, blah, blah? And the last question for any review, which is highly, highly recommended so that other researchers will cite your work, is to always propose a future agenda and recommendation. This is a must to do when it comes to any review paper, okay? So what is the future agenda and recommendations in the field of online learning and academic achievement? So that will be research question 4, research question 5. Now, how to extract this information from any review paper? Let's go back to our example. See, at the end of the review, you will see this table. We call it appendix. Now, these articles are the final included articles in our review, okay? It will go through many stages. I'll explain now. But from these articles, we answer the research questions. For example, this one, ID models or categories. This one is one research questions. So each column is one research question. And I will go one by one to answer this research question from this article, which is A1. And then I will answer the same research question from article 2. I will answer research question from article 3, and so on, until I finish all 30 or 25 articles included in this review. I will do this with question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, and so on. Okay, so this is what we need to do. How to do that? First, we need to start downloading. Now, this is the final number that we get after the inclusion and exclusion criteria. What to do next is to start download. How to do that? Export, download. Now, Scopus gives you the ability to download these documents 50-50, okay? So I will select from 1 to 50 and then download, okay? You see, once I download, it start downloaded and it will count how many downloaded. I will not get the full number. This one will not be the final number, 301, maybe half of them, okay? Because I will lose a lot of documents while I was downloading. That's why I use open access only to eliminate the number that is missing, the number of articles that I'm going to miss while I'm downloading, Okay. So next, when this is done, another download. I will start with 51, for example, to 101. Okay. And then download. Then the next bunch is going to download as well. So I will do that with all 301. Okay. So another download, I will start with 102, but you need to be careful with the numbers. Okay. Until 152. And then download for the third time until you cover all these numbers, which is 301 documents. Okay. Okay, let's just wait a second for this to download. You guys following? Any questions so far? Everything is clear? Okay, good. Now, if I go to download here, let me do it as a list. Okay. Now, these are the documents that I downloaded. So I need to be very, very careful with the numbers. I'm not going to download all 300. I'm showing you now what to do, okay? So let's assume that I have downloaded 301, okay? Downloaded are done. So I will start counting these documents. Okay, I will count these documents, everything that has been downloaded from Scopus. Okay. And these numbers are 119, which is very good. 119 out of 150. Very, very good. Why? Because I used open access. Okay. First thing to do is put them in a new folder. Okay. Sorry. First thing is to put all these articles in a new folder. And then we'll go to the okay. Let's say these are the downloaded articles. Now, are they going to be all included? No. Okay. So I'll go back to Microsoft Word here. I will call it final. Okay. Number 2, which is, I said, how many? 119. I'm assuming that 119 is the total number. I downloaded 301. Okay. So please focus. So this one will be final. Okay. And then what I need to do now, I need to go through these numbers, 119 documents. I need to do something called quality assessment, which is the third phase of Prisma framework. I'll go through 2 stages. Number 1 is scanning. Okay, so scanning means I will go to these documents one by one. I just open the file, read the title, read the abstract and the keywords only. A gender-based comparison of the effects of face-to-face and online learning and student performance. Is it related to my search? What do you think? Anyone? Okay. Any other opinions? Academic achieve. Yes. Yes, okay. So it's not related 100%, right? So I'll just delete this article. But whenever I delete any document I delete, I will write the reasons. So one, deleted, irrelevant. Okay. I'll go to the second one. Social network perspective on peer relationship formation of medical undergraduates within large-scale learning communities. The abstract. Not related. Okay, so I'll delete this and I'll go to n equal to. Whatever I delete, I will increase. Is it the same reason or the second other reason? I will report everything that I do. Okay, a survey on higher education, self-regulated learning skills. Not close to my topic. Okay, academic achievement, yes, that's number one. And then, so it's not in the title. I have one keyword in the title. I need to look for the second one, which is it going to be online or face-to-face settings? This is what I need to understand. Yeah, okay, online, no, online questionnaire. So in this case, I will go a little bit deeper and I'll ask if I can see online learning. Is online learning is online only used for a survey? Yes, so still this one is not relevant anymore because I need to be very particular about online learning and academic achievement. Okay, for example, this one, academic achievement for foreign languages undergraduate students during pandemic. So it's online. So this is going to be my first one to include. Okay, so now I have 4 that are excluded for the same reason, which is are irrelevant. Okay, so I'll go back to the folder and then I will create new one here, included, and then excluded. So what I will be doing next is I will be reading, this is the first phase only, the article, just like I did, title, abstract, and keywords. Is it relevant? If it's relevant, I will be dropping this in the inclusion or the included folder. If it's not, I will exclude it. You can delete or exclude, doesn't matter, but sometimes I keep them just in case I need literature or I need any information later on. So let's say I finish the whole phase of scanning. This is why I call scanning, because I don't really read the paper, the whole paper. I only read these 3 main parts. So after I read, I found that these are included, okay, and these are excluded, for example. And the excluded ones will be more than the included ones, okay? So now these are, for example, the included. Now they will go another, let's say, another stage of assessment. But this one will be not really, we would not be excluding a lot because we already have, let's say, out of 119, I have included maybe 40 after the scanning. I included 40. So I excluded 79. Okay. So this one will be final, final, final. All right. Now these 40 documents, I really need to read now. I want to read not only the title, abstract, and keyword, but I need to read the whole paper. I need to see if they reflect the research questions. Do they answer the research questions or not? So in this case, maybe I will exclude maybe 5 or 10 maximum. So I will not exclude a lot. So the final number, which is the final that included in this review, will be, for example, 35. So see how it goes from 2,500 to 35 documents. Now, this is Prisma, and this is where I need to report all these steps in Prisma. Before we go to Prisma, I've noticed some questions. Any questions? Any questions, guys? All right. Now, how to report this in Prisma? Prisma, by the way, is something provided for free. Prisma template. You can go to Google, write Prisma template, and then you can just download, or you can create your own. Okay, you can create your own figure if you would like. But the important thing is we need to cite the authors of the Prisma. So this one I already downloaded. Okay, now I need to fill and write the report based on what I did, exactly what I did. Okay, so as we mentioned, it's 3 phases: identification, screening, and inclusion, exclusion. Let's just do it like this. You can see my screen, right? Great. Now, what I need to do is, first, I need to identify the database. So for example, records identified from Scopus database, okay? So the database, the initial number that I got is 2,564. And because I use only one database, so there's no need to write the duplicate number, the one that I removed, and so on. So it's only one database. Okay. Now, I applied the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So I need to report whatever records or that I have removed. For example, the duplicate is used if I used more than 2 database, which is Web of Science and Scopus. So let's say the same article appear here and there, then I need to report that. But if you only use one database, so there is no need to record any number here, okay? So from 2,564, I got 301, which means 301, which means I excluded how many? 2,564 minus 301. 2,263. Okay. So these are the number excluded, and you can go extra and add the exclusion criteria here. in some Prisma framework, we see the exclusion very big box. You can add that as well if you would like. Okay, so is the 301 the final number? Report sought for retrieval. When I click download, did I download all of them? Not. Okay, so I only got 119. So during this process, I lost 301 minus 119, 182. So these 182 were not able to download. Okay, now you remember the reasons here? How many I excluded for irrelevant, out of scopes, language, different environment. Okay, you can come out with your own reasons, but you need to report everyone that you exclude. So this one, final is 40. I included 40. So means I excluded 79. So I need to write how many, for example, here, 20. Reason one will be irrelevant. Here, for example, out of scope. Reason three will be language, and so on. So I need to come out with the clean number for all reasons, which will leave me with the final number that I have really included the clean articles, which is 35. Okay, are we clear? Okay, what is the question? Understanding. Okay, this explanation of methodology for us. Do we write in chapter 2 or 3 of PhD thesis? We do not write SLR in a PhD thesis. We publish SLR in a separate article. Okay, but we can use the table, the analysis, everything in our chapter 2, but without the Prisma. Okay, so you can take the literature itself, the boxes, the analysis, the results, the discussion for your thesis. If someone has already finished literature review and cleared proposal defense, can they still do SLR? Yes, of course. SLR is always something will increase your work and it will give you publication as well. It's an easy publication for you. Can SLR be done if my study had 5 variables and I'm doing structural equation modeling for meditation and moderation? Yes, it can, but the more variable that you add, the more keywords that you add, the smaller the results that you will get. So you can work on 2 SLR in this case, 2 related variables in one SLR and 3 other related in one different. Yeah, that's right. This is question number 4. Sometimes Scopus give article only 1 or 2 variable. That is why you need to be concentrated in your research. As a PhD, you need to be very specific. You don't have to do 5 variables. It's a lot. It will give you confusion, along the way. So you need to be very specific. But let's say it got accepted, the proposal defense accepted, and you already have these 5, you can still do it. But when you want to publish, especially in Scopus and indexed journals, you need to separate the variables. The most relevant variable, we'll say 1 or 2 variables that are really relevant to each other, you can write SLR, and the other 2 or the other 3 in a separate one. Yes, of course. I will be sharing the video. I think Annie or who is going to share the video later on? Ethan, yeah, is she is going to share the video later on with you guys. Okay, good. Do we have any question how to report the Prisma? Great. Now, what do we need to do is we need to come out with the initial structure for our paper, okay? Now, this will fall under the results. And then we have the methodology. And then here, of course, we'll have introduction, okay? Now, how to write the methodology? Any idea? Any idea? What is the methodology in any review paper? Anyone? I've been talking and talking from the beginning. The Prisma framework and this query, right? So in writing the methodology, the first thing that I need to do is write a short introduction. For example, in this section or this section, well, address the methodology that we utilized in this paper as this research is Prisma framework Okay, we need to cite okay. To achieve the research objective as this research aimed to investigate the relationship between online learning platforms and students' academic achievements. All right, just a short introduction, and then you will achievement. Prisma framework, right? In this research has three different stages as follows. Then, for example, if this one is 2, then we'll go with 2.1 is the screening. Right? Guys, following? You are very silent, guys. Are you following? Okay. So in this screening, what are we going to write? We're going to write that in details, that this review, for example, on today's date, 17th June 2025 using Scopus database. Okay. The main keywords used. So this is the first information that I'm gonna report. The main keywords used are, okay, or where, online learning, and academic achievements. So whenever I tell or I report any fact or any information, I need to come with the evidence. That's why I'm telling you this is very important, the query. Okay. So this query, this part, you see this title application key is has been used to come up with the keywords. So for instance, this query has been identified. Okay, that's number one. So this one is already taken. Okay, this one is already taken. Now the next information is the study period. I'm gonna report that research the review included the last 10 years starting to, okay. Now I will get this query plus, okay, plus I will justify why 2025 is not included. So moreover, 2025 was excluded. Why? Because it's not over yet. Also, or in addition, years before 20 were excluded. Why? Because this review intend to review timely and updated resources. Okay, so we don't want to work on outdated articles or resources. This is the main idea. So you need to justify everything that you have applied, you need to justify, okay? Now this is where it comes to the first two in the screening. Now, the initial number was 2564 documents. However, after applying the inclusion and exclusion criteria, the number decreased to 301, as you can see in table 1. So I'll create a table immediately, insert table, right? This table will report the inclusion and the exclusion. Okay, so I need to name the table. This is table 1, inclusion and exclusion criteria. We type first, then we do the proofreading, editing, whatever. Okay, so what do I need to write in the inclusion and exclusion criteria? Any idea? Anyone? What is the first inclusion criteria? Okay, that's one, articles, but it's not the first one. Articles only. Years. Who said keywords? Yeah, so keywords is the number one. So it's online learning, blah, blah, blah. And academic achievement. Any other keywords? Excluded. Years, 2014 to 2024. So 2025 is excluded in addition to years before 2013. Here, who's it? Articles, yes. And in the exclusion, I will write all types, conferences, book chapters. What else do we have? Thesis. Sorry, come again? Review, yes, review articles, and so on. Okay, what else? Subject area. We included only two, which is what? Social science and arts and humanities. Okay, so as much as you have, you will just report everything in the table. This is done, the screening part. Now, what comes next after screening? Sorry, this one is identification. I. So 2.2 will be the screening. Now, in this screening, we'll go in depth, more in depth information. So the last number we got is through 3.1. The final number of articles we were able to finalize were 300 documents. Okay, however, okay, however, 182 documents were not retrieved. You see, we report everything. It's very important in the methodology to be clear for the readers. So the final number were about 119 that were able to be downloaded. Okay. Okay, now the inclusion, which is super important. Why? Because we need to include the quality assessment here. Okay, so the review or the reviewed articles included in this went through the quality assessment phase. And it's very important to report how many researchers actually did that, because it's not acceptable for one researcher to do it. Okay, they will say it's bias. So at least two researchers need to do the quality assessment. So if you are doing the research with your supervisor, you need to write that the researcher and his supervisor did the quality assessment to make sure it's, you know, clear, out of any bias, and the results are trusted. So the reviewed articles, including this review, went through the quality assessment phase, starting with scanning as any irrelevant articles were excluded. Okay. Here, you need to write all these reasons with numbers. So, for example, for instance, 10 articles were excluded, and the what we call the scanning phase, due to the fact that they are irrelevant to the scope of this review. That's one reason. You need to report all the reasons. And when you are done, you need to finally, this review included 35 documents as the final number to be reviewed in this paper. See figure 1, Prisma framework. And you just copy and paste Prisma here. All right, any questions? Okay, chat. Can we include 2000? What? Do you mean 2020? Do you mean the year? Can we include 2025, but inform the date that we? It's not recommended because more articles will be added in 2025. So if you see, for example, if you say that 100 publications in 2025, but few months later, it will be 300. So it will be inaccurate information in your paper. Yeah, you can mention the date, and I've seen review papers included the current year, but the correct procedure is to exclude unless you are actually short of publications. You are looking into something rare. Your topic is, for example, new. You don't have enough, then you can include the current year. Yes. Okay. Is there any minimum number of article for final? There's no minimum, but do not waste your time for 10 papers or 15. At least go with 20 so that your paper has something to provide as a contribution. And later on, it will be accepted in indexed journals. Yes, we can. Do you mean you apply the filter for the years at the final stage instead of the first one? Yes, yes, you can, of course. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Hmm. No, you cannot do that because the results will be changing. Everything will be changing. Even the analysis, the publication by years, the publication by journals, everything will be different. So you need to finalize the period from now. And we are still 6 months to go until 2025 is over. So if you want to include 2025, you can go with the suggestion just now by Kizrawati. You can include 2025, include the date, and justify a reason why you included 2025, even though it's not over yet, because it's not, you are not having enough publications. Your topic is new and you want to include 2025. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Now, if you want to use, like this case, she has only 8 articles. So in this case, you can use Google Scholar, you can use Web of Science, you can use as many databases as you want, but you need to report that in Prisma. So for example, here it will be Scopus n equal 8. And then I'll go to Web of Science n equal, for example, 20. And then Google Scholar, and then I will report how many did I get from Google Scholar, which is 30, for example. Yeah, and then from that total number, I will do the same with the Prisma until I get the final number that I will include in my review. Yes, so it's totally up to you to include as many database as you want, but you need to report everything need to be very clear in the methodology and the Prisma, and also in the screening, the inclusion, and so on. Okay? Do we have any other questions? Please feel free to ask any questions. Okay, so the next step that I'm doing now is I'm going just to insert this in my paper so that it will be part of the results. Very important part of the results. Okay, good. Now we are done with the methodology. We are starting with the results and the discussion. Before we move on to the how we report to the results, let's go and open a new file, insert a table. This one will be like the database for your SLR, which is very important. You can ask Pan, my PhD student. She has been a lot of, she's doing a lot of review and publishing a lot of Q1 and Q2 papers. This part, if you are done with it, you are done with the whole paper, especially when you are done with the method, research questions, and so on. So what you need to do, exactly as I showed you here, this one, Appendix A, that you need to come out with based on the analysis that you run for the 35 articles, okay? So you need to arrange these articles in a way so that when you start answering the research questions, you have data to answer. Where this data come from? This table, okay? Just like a survey. This one, when you do a research, you will do a survey, collect the data from the participants, and then you have the data set, analyze the data. So in the review, this is our data set, okay? Which will be based from the included articles in the final round. So how to do that? My own way to do it is first I will, let's say, categorize the articles based on label. Okay, label, article, and then here the research questions. So here will be research question 1, research question 2, research question 3, 4, 5. Okay, as many research questions as you have. Label will be, for example, A1, A2, A3. This one just make your life easier when you try to access the articles. So I will go to the folder that I have. This is my included articles, the final ones, okay, that I included in my review. So I will open the first one. First, I will look for the information about the authors. If there is any, let's say, citation. This is the DOI. You can use any of the software, EndNotes, or if you want to do it manually, you can do it as well. But the thing is, you need to record everything. You need to report everything so that at the end, you will have everything ready when you are finalizing your paper. So for this one, where's the citation? Usually the journal will provide the citation, but it's not here. So just come out with my own citation. In this case, when I'm not familiar with the citation, I'll just go to ChatGPT. I will ask ChatGPT to write the APA citation for the following. Instead of wasting my time, I'll just copy all this information and write it to ChatGPT. Okay. And here we go with the citation. Okay. So what I usually do, I will go to a note. I'll create A1. I will put this citation here. A2, I'll put the citation for A2, A3, A4, etc. And then I'll take the in-text citation and I will insert it in the table. ATL 2023. Okay. Now, for the research question number 1, which will be about the theory. So I'll go through the file. Now I need to read deeply to understand these articles. Not only scanning, now I'm analyzing. I am literally analyzing these articles. So I need to read deeply about these articles because they are only 35. So I need to understand everything about them. Okay, I'm writing an SLR for these 335 articles. I need to write the abstract, the introduction, most importantly, the methodology, where I will find all the information that I need. Okay, so for example, the material, method, aim of the research, the main objective of the study was the academic performance, blah, 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 in education, faculty of education, teaching and learning English, the subject name, the participants, how many number of students that we have, because this could be one of the questions as well. If you go here, if you go here, one of the question for this review was about the sample. Are they student? Are they teachers? Because from there you can get the gap. You can get the gap. What do you mean by gap? Research gap could be context gap, methodological gap, geographical gap, knowledge gap. So for example, all these articles have only used student. None of them used teachers. So this is a gap. So from there, from this information, you say this research will target teachers as the sample of the study because previous studies only targeted students. This is a methodological gap. And also, if all research has conducted quantitative, for example, and you want to do qualitative, okay? So based on that, you will come up with the research questions about the approach, the research approach, whether it's quantitative, qualitative, how many conducted quantitative, how many qualitative. And based on that, there is a gap, methodological gap. Okay. Also, regarding the place, the location, geographical location of the study, there's not much research conducted in Middle East, for example, related to online learning platforms. All of them conducted in US, UK, Europe. Okay, so based on that, there is a geographical gap, and this is a motive to let you do this in your area. All right. So once again, these questions, guys, research question for SLR is totally up to you. What are you looking for? What are you going to do? What are you going to contribute in this body of knowledge? Now, I want you to read article by article and all research questions and go for the next one. Let's say research question about the theory, you found the information, then, okay, the theory used in this article is TDT, for example, or TPAC. Research question number 2 was about the sample students, university lecturers. Question number 3 about the recommendation or future agenda. The authors recommend that online learning platform research area must be utilized more in the Middle East. As the majority of research was conducted in UK, US, UK, and Europe. All right. So how do I get these answers? By reading these articles. Okay, guys, any question for the appendix? Yeah. We do this appendix. We didn't get the appendix. This one is what we do. This is our analysis. No, we do it by ourselves. We read the articles based on the research questions. We design this appendix. Yeah, from the articles, just like I mentioned here, you can go to the article one by one, write this article, the citation, and then start answer the research questions from the article that you included. This is the appendix. Welcome. Any questions? Any questions, guys? So are we all clear with the appendix? Okay. Okay. Now after the great. Now after the appendix, what do? We start writing the results. Okay. Because we do have the results now. We have the answers for all research questions. What we need to do now is thematic analysis for the appendix, for the results, so that we can report in our paper. All right. Now, for example, this is the result part. To achieve the attended research goal, the 31 papers that were allocated, examined, and included with the Prisma were critically and analytically analyzed. How? The appendix. So I need to refer that these papers are analyzed in the appendix A, so that readers, they justify, they know that I have already analyzed these 35 or 31 articles. Okay. After that, I need to be organized in a way when I answer my research questions, everything needs to fall on this research question. So I have one research question about the model. Everything about the model will be here in the results and in the discussion later on. Okay. So 3.1 for the results will discuss about everything related to the instructional design model, categories, theories, and framework. I need to be I need to have this academic writing style when I report my results, which means that I don't have to include everything in my reporting. I need to categorize. Let's say three articles or three researchers use the same theory. So I mentioned that 3 out of 31 used this theory instead of writing everything just like beginners. No, you need to reach to that level which we call academic writing, that we can be able to thematic analysis by our own eyes. Okay, for example, I will categorize that 5 of these articles use TDT theory. Instead of saying this theory use this article and this one and this one and this one and this one, just 5 articles use this theory, which was like 10% of the articles in total. Okay, so it will give me the inclusion that this theory has some importance in the field. All right. So whenever we use or we write report in academia, it's highly recommended that you use tables and figures. Writing alone is not enough. So for example, here you can see I have divided these theories into models, and each theory I will give a little bit of context. So that the reader, when they want to know, for example, about ADDIE, they will read about ADDIE in particular, okay, instead of just looking in the paper. So making the results in table and figures will be easier for the reader to find. And also, not only in table, in figures as well. For example, here, one of the research question was educational context, okay? Which mean, is it online, is it face-to-face, or is it hybrid, for example? So let's say, how did I report this? You see, the vast majority of research, we looked at use online learning as the instructional online. So number one was online, okay? These were 16% of the total articles, okay? And these are the researchers that use online, 24, 31, 34, 46, okay? MOOCs were used as instructional settings in the following education context, 13%. Okay, another 13% for blended learning, another blah, 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 all this information. So this is how we actually report the data. And then when I'm done reporting and writing, I will make a figure to show this data. For example, here's 5 papers, 16% online learning, 3 papers, 10% face-to-face, 4, 13% MOOCs, blended learning 4, and other educational settings, 15 papers. So just reading this figure will make it clear about the results instead of reading everything. This is what do we mean by review? We are reviewing and giving, highlighting the most important results. For example, when it comes to types of samples, we have discovered that majority have used student. You see, all these studies used, which were 15, mostly half of them, 50% of them were students. Only 16%, which is 5 articles, used pre-service teachers. 4 students used both students and teachers. Okay. 2 studies used instructional designers and so on. So this information, instead of writing learners for all these articles, we will categorize. This is what I mean by thematic analysis when it comes to results. Okay. And also we provide a figure to show how this article is or has been, or how this data has been figured, illustrated. Now, when it comes to geographical location as well, we provided a map to show the articles and how they were located. But my question is, when it comes to result, do we need to justify this information or only just report? Any idea? For example, Just report. Just report. Where do we need to justify then? In the discussion, right? Okay. So, for example, this information, there are indication higher than activity in the USA. 13 article, 40%, 42% of the total publication. All these 13 were conducted in the USA. So I only mention the information. I don't need to justify this information. All right. Now, I want you to differentiate between the results and discussion in this way. Now, when I write the results, I will write without any justification. But how about the discussion? How do I write discussion? Any idea? Okay, compare. What else? The current result of the study, right? So I show the current result and then compare. Anything else? Yes, excellent. So any good discussion will be consisted of three main parts. Number one, current result, which, for example, this study showed that majority of the publication in the field of online learning after, for example, COVID-19. 90% of the educational institutions only use online learning after COVID. Now, this is a result from the current study. I have collected data from universities, from institutions. I collected data, and this data showed that 90% of these educational institutions used online only after COVID-19. So before COVID-19, online learning was something not really serious. It was there, but they have never used it. They maybe upload material, they can put assignment, that's all. Okay, so this is the result. Number two, we need to compare the current study with previous research. Okay, for example, these results are in line with Ahmad, for example, 2024, who claimed that online learning has become common after COVID-19 shift that happened in all educational institutions. So this is what this is. Oh, okay. This is supporting the results by other researchers. That's number two. Number three, my opinion now. That's why discussion is one of the critical section that will show your personality as a researcher. It's very, very important to write the discussion by your own hands. If you use ChatGPT in some parts, in discussion, use your own mind. Why? Because it will show your personality as a researcher. Okay? So this study showed that majority of the publication in the field of online learning was conducted after COVID-19 by 90% of education institutions are only used online after COVID-19. And these results are in line with blah, 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 who claim the same. So now it's your, chance as a researcher to say something about this, okay? Moreover, these results are representing the importance of online learning in the era of AI and technology, and how COVID-19 helped in shaping, the technology or the technological importance in educational settings. Okay, now this is how to write discussion. If I remove this, compare, let me just copy and paste. Now, if I write this as a paragraph, okay, you see how these are amazingly aligned with each other as a paragraph in the discussion. See, right? So this study showed blah blah blah. This one is the current results, and this is where I compared the current result with other researchers, and finally I come out with my own conclusion as a researcher, which is very, very important. Okay, so if you write the conclusion this way, your discussion will be a piece of art. All right, any questions? Any question? Yes, yes. Okay, now your findings must be different from other SLR. or else what's the point? If it's the same, so what are you doing? There's something wrong. So they need to be the same. The results must be different. You are looking, if I write SLR in the same topic and you are right in the same topic as well, our results will be different because I have my own judgmental understanding of this topic and you have a different understanding of this topic. So this is totally okay. This is totally healthy. And it's actually the correct way to do it. That's why SLR is totally about the researchers. It will strengthen your academic skills. Ask Pam. Without SLR, you will not be able to write your thesis because it's like doing trial, like, you know, uh, it's like doing trial about, if you want to record video, you will record yourself like 10, 20 times before the actual video. SLR will be the experimental period for you. So it will give you the skills, it will give you the abilities for you to write and so on. So the results must be different. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. Okay. In that case, you need to report that this author not applicable or did not mention this information. And then later on in the result, you will report that these type of articles or this number of authors did not mention clearly what method they used. So it needs to be reported as well, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? So all clear with the methodology, results, discussion. Okay. Now, what I want to discuss is two more things before we end our session today, is how to write the introduction in detail and how to write the abstract, right? Now, for the introduction, as I mentioned, you always need to follow the reverse triangle. And the reverse triangle must cover the variable of the research. Where do we get the variable? The keywords. Okay, so based on that, on these keywords, we write the title because the title is the control panel of the whole article. So they must be aligned, they must be related. You remember when we downloaded the articles and we deleted the first three? Even though we looked into academic achievement, but still authors used academic achievement in keywords, and it has nothing to do with it. So everything needs to be aligned. The title, the abstract, introduction, everything needs to be aligned. Do not use extra keywords. It's not recommended. Some of the researchers will do something about online learning and they will write e-learning. They will write MOOC, something not relevant. So do not do that. You will mislead the results for others researchers. Okay. Now, for example, here instructional design and instructional design models as the topic of this paper. So, how to write the introduction following the reverse triangle approach. Now, the reverse triangle is we need to start wide when we talk about this topic. We need to cite researchers from all around the world about this topic. I'm not talking about a research gap yet. I'm just introducing the instructional design, the function of the instructional design, the importance of the instructional design. And then next paragraph, I'm going to narrow down a little bit. I'm going to tackle the problem that's happening. Why I'm writing this paper, there is a problem happening. And based on that problem or research gap, I am building this paper. For the third paragraph, which is the main contribution, is to find solutions. Okay, so introduction is not something random, because I've seen a lot of student just copy paste from other introductions. This is not true. It's irrelevant to your work. So you need to organize the introduction in a way that when you read it, it will give you satisfaction that, okay, I know this paper objective. I know what this paper is going to achieve at the end. All right. So writing the introduction is not something random. We need to follow, that strategy, that approach in writing the introduction. And always, when you are done with the introduction, always introduce the coming sections. For example, this is the introduction where I talk about the instructional design, the importance, you see, importance of instructional design, and how it's related to online learning and so on. So second, I will narrow down the information, all right? And then finally, the final part of the introduction is I'm going to contribute what is this paper provides. So this SLR provides novel information for future researchers concerning ADI models, categories, educational context, and so on. How I'm going to provide this? By answering these questions. You see, everything is aligned and connected. So the first research question will be blah, 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 blah. All right. And to answer the research question, I have this research methodology part. You see how they are all aligned with each other. Any questions? Do we have any questions? Okay, now, one of the most important parts when it comes to publication in particular is writing the abstract. Abstract, do not use ChatGPT. Do not use ChatGPT. Even if you use ChatGPT in your writing, in the abstract itself, use your own writing. And it must go through 5 main sections. Okay. Any abstract, what is the first thing that any abstract need to have? Introduction or background. Okay, next. No, no. Before the methodology, objective. You see a lot of work, this research, aims, two, right? And then 3, methodology, okay. Then before discussion, results. Okay, now if you still have, because the abstract, mostly journals will ask about 200 words. And it's called abstract for a reason. So you need to be very careful with every word that you choose. That's why the background is highly recommended not to go more than 2 lines only, or maybe 1.5. Because I've seen students, half of the abstract is introduction, online learning platform, COVID-19. This is not where you write all this information. You need to be very specific. When I write the abstract, just like we did previously when we analyzed the papers, I need to be very clear with what's going on here. I need to understand the why this research has been conducted, the objective of the research, what methodology has been used, and the main results, not all results. If you still have time, you can add a little bit of discussion. And finally, future agenda. Very important. Or recommendation. Okay? So any abstract should not be out of these 5. These are very, very important, not only for articles, only for also for your thesis, but it will be expanded a little bit. This is the difference. So in any articles, 200, 250. Some journals will give you up to 250. If 251, it will be rejected. So you are, every word counts. Okay. In the background, for example, what you need to do, talking about online and COVID-19, this project, this research, before you talk about the research and the aim of the research, you will give a little bit of context about COVID-19 and how this actually affected the education section and how shifted the education. Thus, moreover, this research aims to investigate the relationship between blah, blah, blah. To achieve this objective, we applied this method. So this research is a systematic literature review based on Prisma. Be very specific with the words. Based on Prisma, we use Scopus database with the first number of 2,652 articles. Finally, included 35 articles. That's it. Okay. We need to be very specific. And for the results, you only need to highlight the very first or second or very, let's say, important results, 1 or 2 results, and take your time when you talk about the future agenda, because future agenda will show how this research is contributing to the body of knowledge. So you need to show some, you need to give some weight to the future agenda and recommendation when it comes to review papers. Are we clear, guys? Do we have any questions? Chat box. Do you have any suggestion about how to write good research questions? Do you mean research questions in general or research question for systematic literature review? For SLR. For SLR, as I mentioned, and I will always tell the same, you need to come out with your own need. Okay. So you need to be motivated to do the SLR. Why I'm doing the SLR? Because I don't have a theory in mind. So I will need to look for a theory, or I need to look for a methodology. So any like hints how to write the research question, just like the one that I wrote now, be very specific. What is the contribution of this? What is the main theories used? What were the sample used? What is the statistical analysis used? So that it will be answered clearly from the data that you have. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Do we have any other questions, guys? How much have you, you know, benefited from the workshop? Do you think you are able to write your own SLR now? Okay. So um, I really hope we can contact later on. I don't mind to give you guys insights or to give you feedback. Maybe I can share my email. You can contact me later on if you would like. But I really want you to start today with your SLR, at least if you can draft the numbers, the Prisma framework, and then if you do have any questions later on, we can communicate. All right, guys? Yes. Okay. Um, Now we have theory, we have a model, we have a framework. Um, because let's say in social science, we need to relate our research based on theories. Theories, which means that it has been hypothesized and it has been publicized by other researchers. So everybody in the field are using it. It's very, very common. Okay. Now, framework or model, it's type of a theory, but it's differs based on the data that has been collected. For example, I can do a model now by collecting the data, analyzing the data, and publicizing the data. This will be a model. A framework will be more like complex because after developing the model, I need to publicize it and use it in the field as a guideline, for example. So three of them are a contribution in some way, but it differs with the data that is collected, how much this theory has been publicized, has how much has been successful in the field, and so on. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You can contact with who is it again? Coordinator. Yeah. He's saying if any other workshop, she will announce it. Yeah. Yes. I'm more than happy to give you guys any workshop. Yeah. 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 Sure. Mm. No, no, it doesn't. If you are satisfied with the results, then go ahead. You can include. I have review papers that I have included conferences, so you don't have to change. But it's the same reason that I told you is only because I want to get as many as I can from the downloaded. So when I select conferences, I will lose a lot of options, especially when I have a very limited number of publications. So just go ahead, do not redo anything. Yeah, welcome. Um, I personally use Photoshop, but you can use the figure from Scopus database directly, or you can use Canva as well. It's a good choice. And also there is another one called Napkin AI. I'm not familiar. I don't know if you are familiar with it. It's called Napkin AI. Okay. Now, you can see my screen, right? Okay. Now, there are three databases that I want you to be familiar with. Number one is Google Scholar. Number two is Scopus. And number three is Web of Science. This is Google Scholar, guys, okay? In Google Scholar, my citation is around 1,800 something. But if I go to Scopus, my citation is 619. Why? Because Scopus means that they have a list of requirements for journals, because journals all around the world, they need to be indexed so that the authors will go and publish. And one of the requirements for you to graduate is to publish in Scopus. And one of the requirements for the staff as well to get promoted is to publish in Scopus. So what does it Scopus mean? It's a database. If you are a good journal, quality journal, we can index you. But you need to meet 8 or 9 requirements. You need to review your paper, you need to publish quality, and you need to have a limited time of publication per year. Okay. If not, every year in July, some journals will be discontinued from Scopus, which means they have entered Scopus, but for some criteria they have been kicked out. So Scopus is one of the criteria that we know that these journals are good, or these journals are indexed. They have quality. Okay. Up to Scopus, there is Web of Science, which is even higher than Scopus. But Google Scholar, for example, it doesn't matter whether it's indexed, not indexed, everything you have published on the internet, it will be in your Google Scholar. That's why my citation, for example, in Google Scholar is 1,800. In Scopus, only 619, which means these people cited me, they publish in Scopus as well. Okay? So this is the meaning of Scopus, is getting a quality by indexing the journal inside this database. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. So do we have any other questions? Yeah. Yes, 1 month will be more than enough to write your systematic literature review if you do work with focus and in 1 month you will be able to write your systematic review. I'm not sure, maybe Pan can share. She can write in 2 weeks. Yeah. Should I exclude conference review and book? Yes. If you would like, if you have enough numbers, yeah, you can exclude. But if you deal with few numbers, then you can include. The inclusion and exclusion criteria, guys, it's nothing for granted. Let's say I want to use this inclusion and exclusion criteria. In a different research, I will use different one. But I need to justify. As long as I justify, then it's okay. All right. Do we have any other questions? I think I'm done. Back to you, Andy. Yes. Yeah, yeah, sure. Not really, but uh, do you mean that if you understand, if you want to study a relationship between A and B, and then whatever comes, that like the outcome you need to report as the contribution of your study? Is this is what I mean? In this case, you you can use more than one theory, which would be a complexity of two theories, for example, so that your contribution will cover both the investment and the other variable. Because and that's why we need to build the theoretical framework and conceptual framework, where we do have a theory in mind, but it does not really cover the variables of my study. So I need another theory. In that case, I need my conceptual framework to propose me with something that unique, something new that I need to do in my study. Ye- Yes, yes, the combination. Welcome. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Since we don't have any question, I really hope that you enjoyed the session and you learned something, and hopefully to see you in coming sessions. All the best for you.